Have you ever wished that you could see the Matrix when it comes to Destiny PvP? If you've taken PvP even remotely seriously at any point in time, or if in general you've ever felt the need to get good at any FPS game, then this video is for you. I might have been joking in the intro, but this video will teach you how to understand the dynamics of any PvP game. In short, this ability is called Game Sense, and I'm guessing you've probably already heard of it. Several members of the community have already made great videos and explanations on this topic. For instance, my buddy Ascendant Nomad's Game Sense 101 videos are really popular and well produced. One might think that with so many videos covering this topic, all that can be said already has been said. However, Game Sense is such a vast concept that it's very difficult to understand all of it, and in the process of developing as a player, your depth of understanding will continue to grow seemingly forever. Sometimes, hearing things in a different way might be just what you need for a particular thought to click with you. For this reason, we're going to take a backwards approach. Instead of trying to talk about every single facet of Game Sense, I'm going to first try to break down the big idea of Game Sense into chunks for you, and then whenever you see a video on this topic, you'll be able to incorporate exactly what your favorite YouTuber is talking about into your own playstyle. Destiny has often been compared to the game of chess by many top-level players. This may seem like a strange comparison to make. Fighting opponents in Destiny 2 is, at first glance, a rapid flow of connected actions, while chess is just a sequence of distinct, separated moves. But if we take a closer look, we'll see how Destiny 2, or any FPS game for that matter, also boils down to just quickly finding the best move in any possible situation. First things first, what exactly is a move when it comes to Destiny? Well, I guess there is just moving. Yeah, no big brain there. But we can also make a move by casting our abilities or shooting our weapons. For example, just repositioning yourself to a new location can be a move. Engaging enemies in a gunfight is a move. Throwing your grenade around a corner is a move. Switching which weapon you have out at the time is also a move. Pulling out your sword hilt in the middle of a battle and then hiding around the corner is a move. But please don't do this move, you're better than that. Long story short, everything that you can do in the game, every action you can make is a move. And finally, even just waiting and holding your ground can be a move. If you think about it this way, dying to an enemy just means that your opponent found a move and executed it before you took a better move to defend against it. Granted, if you're being chased by a behemoth titan, maybe that move just doesn't exist. But think about it this way, when you died, your opponent slapped you with a checkmate. You had nowhere to run and you couldn't make a move to defend yourself before they got the upper hand. In chess, the entire wisdom of the game is centered around finding the best next move that sets you up for success. In Destiny 2, we also gotta find the best move, the move that has the highest probability to win us the situation and ultimately the game. Sometimes this looks like running away to play your life, and other times it might be participating in a gunfight even though you're low health because your mere presence on the battlefield gives your teammates the upper hand in an odd man battle. In chess, a computer can calculate exactly which move is most likely to eventually win the game. In Destiny though, you may have to make this decision based on your gut feeling and pull from your experience as a player. Sometimes, the actual best move is only clear when reviewing your gameplay after the battle is over. This is why I'm such a big proponent of recording your gameplay and then later rewatching it with fresh eyes. Hindsight really is 2020 here. So how do we go about finding the best move? Frankly, this is no easy task. It requires putting yourself in enough situations that you start to notice the patterns that take place in the game. For example, having a crystal clear understanding of all the possible spawn points on a map and how your teammates' positioning can influence where those enemies will spawn. The point of this video is to basically give you a rough idea of which moves are good and which ones aren't so good, so you can choose to make the moves that you want to play more consciously and deliberately in the moment. Examples always help here, so at the end of the video, we'll review some gameplay clips from members of my Discord server and see if we can apply some of the topics from the video. If you'd like to have your own gameplay analyzed, the link to join us is discord.gg/pattycakes. So let's think about how to find the best move in any given situation. Specifically, let's think about the criteria that impacts how we should choose a move. Let's assume that we're going to be playing with the intention to win. In every game mode, there are certain objectives, and I'm dividing these into hard objectives and soft objectives. A hard objective is something like capturing the zone in Trials of Osiris after the round timer runs out and then triggers overtime. It's an objective which, if captured successfully, immediately wins the round for your team. It doesn't matter if you're the only player left on your team or if the enemies have popped 3 supers. Capturing the zone wins you the round instantly. A soft objective is something like power ammo. It's an objective which may help you to win the match, but it will not yield you the win automatically. For example, if you get power ammo in Trials of Osiris, you'll have a higher chance of winning the round. However, if you get outplayed while wielding that heavy ammo, the plan fails and your chances of winning have severely dropped. Even in straightforward modes like Clash, there are soft objectives that can snowball and lead to a win. This could be setting up a spawn trap and manipulating player locations on the map so you can get several kills quickly and nearly uncontested. Or maybe securing power ammo for your team with a big play. Or even just fighting for position so that your team has the more advantageous spawn point for the next minute or two. There are two levels of planning that we need to pay special attention to: strategy and tactics. Strategy refers to a macro long-term plan you develop on how to play in a given situation. This includes your general game plan and your intentions for how you want to operate in the game. A strategy is a high-level approach and it rarely changes during the match. Tactics, on the other hand, refer to the local, quick, and often spontaneous plans that you develop on how to play against your opponents in a very short window of time. In other words, a tactic is a quick sequence of moves which aims to fulfill a certain step within a larger strategy. While your strategy is mostly constant, you'll need to develop tactics very dynamically and rapidly, both in a proactive and reactionary sense. I think these two concepts are best explained as an example. Let's say you're playing Trials of Osiris on Endless Vale. Your strategy might be that you want your team to control the lanes around the B platform area because you know that's eventually where the capture point will be if the round happens to go to overtime. A tactic here might be to wait patiently while sitting underneath the B platform, waiting for the other team to jump up. This tactic allows your team to easily kill an overly aggressive opponent and give your team the advantage. Or perhaps your tactic here is to play a little bit more passively towards the end of the round because you almost have your Chaos Reach Warlock super ready to go, and you'll be able to easily wipe the other team if they try to capture that point in the open. As you can see, you need to both strategically and tactically dominate your opponent for the win. If your strategy isn't good, you'll lose games because you aren't winning those objectives. If there's a hard objective, you're going to lose right on the spot, and if there's only soft objectives, your enemies will slowly but surely overpower you and you're not going to be able to gain progress. If it's your tactics that are poor, you're going to get killed way too often and give your opponents the advantage, which snowballs into handing them the win. So this all sounds nice in theory, but how do we actually go about finding the best move? Well, there are many sources of information in Destiny 2, and each of them can act as a critical piece of the larger puzzle to help you determine your best tactic to deploy. Before the game even starts, if you check your enemy's loadout, you'll have your first information on what you can expect to face. If you can remember what player names used what weapons, you'll have a much easier time reacting to your opponent's attacks. On a deeper level, you may gain insight into some of the strategies they plan to use as well. Also, you can learn to approximate the skill level of your opponent based on their loadout, but try not to get too overconfident here. For example, if you see a team of 3 Titans all equipped with sight and ramparts and sniper rifles, you can safely bet that they're about to play incredibly passive. Against them, you're probably going to want to avoid the sniper lanes as much as possible and work on closing the gap safely as a team to overwhelm them in close quarters. On the other hand, if you see a team of 3 hunters all wearing stompies with hand cannons and shotguns, you can expect a very aggressive team and you should be ready for them to all push you hard together. During the game, the most obvious source of information is actually what you see right in front of you. Pay attention to how players are moving. This is one of the easiest ways to approximate a player's skill level, and it can give you some vital information on what to expect. Less skilled players tend to not use many movement abilities. They tend to peek really common angles and strafe in very predictable ways. Take note of this because you can often pick up on a predictable movement pattern of your opponent, and you're going to have a much easier time aiming at them and pre-firing them for some easy kills. The common tendency of many good players is to always slide into engagements. For myself, if I pick up on that trend, I'm going to start pre-aiming slightly below head level so I'm ready for the slide. What this means is that I'm ready to shoot them as they come sliding around the corner. This effectively mitigates their advantage because I can predict their movement. Even skilled players who use movement abilities and off angles well can fall into the trap of using them in the same way over and over again. If you pay attention to this, you can give yourself the advantage. Next up, you have a tremendous amount of information provided strictly by what you hear. Audio cues are an essential source of information in Destiny. Simply put, sound isn't blocked by walls, and listening accurately to audio cues will essentially grant you wall hacks. You can listen for a super being popped nearby to let you know what kind of super it was and have a pretty good idea of exactly where they are. You can also hear enemies double jumping around the map, which can give you an indication if they're likely going to be above you when they come around the corner. Then there's also things like hearing a sword hilt coming out, which especially in modes like Trials of Osiris means someone is likely third person peeking from behind a wall and they can see you even if you can't see them. This is lame, but it happens. You also have an incredible amount of information provided to you by the radar. Make sure you pay very close attention to it. This helpful little tool literally tells us where our enemies are located within a pretty generous range. You can also know if a player is above or below you based on the opacity of the indicator and their general direction. Top players are flashing their eyes up to the radar constantly throughout the game. It's literally like having wall hacks if you learn how to use it correctly. You can also make some educated guesses based on the clock. For example, if the round just started, you know where people are likely to be and not be. This is especially helpful in modes like Trials of Osiris where you can anticipate where an enemy might be peeking from. If the round just started, there's no way that they can be behind you, so you can kind of use process of elimination to have an educated guess. Proceeding onwards, we have the on-screen information printed in the kill feed. This is going to tell us things like when our teammate died and from what kind of attack. You can coordinate this information with the little skull icons that show up on screen wherever your teammates died. Together, these indicators can give you a lot of information on the enemy's position. The kill feed also shows you whenever an enemy super is activated, but ideally you should really hear this information first and be able to identify what super it is without even having to look at the screen. Objective points in their capture state can also give you a lot of information. If you see a zone being captured, you can evaluate how fast the indicator is changing and have a pretty rough idea of how many enemies might be nearby. We can also extend this idea to the heavy ammo spots on the map. If you see that heavy ammo was just available and then all of a sudden it's gone, that means that the other team just pulled heavy and you're about to die from a Wardcliff coil if you don't get out of there right away. This information is also printed on screen so you can know if an enemy pulled the heavy from further away. Finally, there's also the time remaining on the clock which can influence your enemy's game plan. In modes like Trials of Osiris, if you see the clock is about to hit 0, your enemy might be about to make a play. Unless of course they're still camping with their swords out around the corner. With the information you gather from the battlefield together with your understanding of strategy and tactics, you're going to be well on your way to determining the best possible move. So I know we've covered a lot of ground, and trust me, we are all confused at first. Destiny is a game with a lot of complexity, and that's even before you consider the mechanical abilities to pull off these moves. If you ask me, Patty, where should I even start? I'd say go for tactics first and pay special attention to the cues that we just mentioned because those can give you insights to predict what's about to happen. Strategy by itself really isn't that useful, and you can't execute the tactics required to take advantage of that larger plan. Just like there are some attacks in chess which immediately win you the game, in Destiny 2 the enemy might make a big mistake and allow you to capitalize on it in a devastating way. And let's be real, the best possible strategy can pretty easily fail to a Chaos Reach Warlock with a single swipe of a screen. If you don't succeed at the tactics, your whole game will topple. And to start getting better at those tactics, you need to start getting in the habit of capturing that vital information quickly. Again, this comes down to repetition and playing with intention. You need to be actively paying attention to what's happening around you so that you can recognize the patterns and be able to predict what's likely to happen the next time you see that situation playing out. When you start seeing the matrix unfolding in front of you like this, it's just a matter of having the best tactic for the situation available and well rehearsed in your playbook so that you can execute it. What I can help you with is to start seeing those patterns and understand which tactics make sense to deploy. I think developing a giant theory here isn't particularly helpful. Instead, let's take a look at some examples, and naturally you're going to be able to pick up on the patterns and recognize these playing out in your own games. Okay, so for these clips, I wanted to show you a variety of skill levels and help you see some of the ways that the game cues we mentioned earlier can be recognized in-game and help you to choose the right tactic for the situation. Okay, so let's get into some examples. The first one we have here is from our friend Ahamkara from the Discord server. Okay, so what I want to show here is that on the radar here, we have some important information. We have the closer dot here, which lets us know that there's someone pretty close to us. And then we also have the two outer indicators here that let us know that someone's on the far ranges of our radar. Let's see what happens. So in this situation, we have a pretty easy adjustment to make that will help us stay alive a bit longer. Let's see how we could have played that differently. So right here at this frame, we have our chaperone out. The problem, of course, is that chaperone has about 13-ish meters of range for the one-hit kill, and the guy who's going to come at the far side in the library area is much further than 13 meters. So best case scenario, we're going to barely hurt him at all if someone comes around that angle. If we take our primary out to focus on the guy in the library area, then the guy who's close to our left over the bridge can come out and one-shot kill us with a shotgun. So I think the best move here actually would be to just retreat all the way down behind us and take a different angle. As you can see though, Ahamkara goes for a close quarters battle and it just doesn't really work out with the team shot. By the way, if you guys like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe because I have a whole series where I do breakdowns just like this. Okay, next section that we're going to review. We get 2 nice kills with the chaperone, but then we get in trouble real quick. Let's see what happens on our screen right here. So as you can see, once again, we have some radar problems. We have a guy in front of us, but we also have a guy behind us. In this situation, you have a tough decision to make. You basically either need to be confident that you can win this fight with both of these guys, or you just need to back out and hope that your teammate behind you can help you win this fight. Let's see what happens. As you'll see here, we actually take damage from behind, which hurts our health, and then we don't get out of there fast enough. We stay ADS while looking at those grenades, which is just going to kill you pretty much every time. Again, the better play here would have been to back up behind us and try to get a different angle with our teammate support. Okay, next situation, we're going to pause and see something really important on our radar. Boom, right here. You can see that we have a threat to our right through the doorway. So you want to peek this really carefully. Ideally, you want to try to take this one angle at a time. But what you can see happens is that Ahamkara slides us and isn't really ready for the fight and dies pretty quickly. Now, if you played this fight a little bit more carefully, you could have taken one fight at a time and potentially stayed alive here, or at least realized that you were outnumbered and able to back out, but instead we give up a pretty easy death. Okay, last one from this clip. We're going to see that we had a chance to get out of this fight, but we didn't take it. So let's rewind that. So right here, we can see that our health is very low. Ideally, you do not want to re-peek this because you have the opportunity here to wait behind cover and regen your health. Let's see what happens. Okay, now we get frozen. This was a grenade that we actually had a chance to jump away from if you were quick, but unfortunately that didn't happen. That's okay, we're frozen. Now we do have a very brief opportunity here though. As soon as the freeze goes away, we can jump up to our left and get out of this doorway. But what you can see happen here is that we're just a little too slow and the enemy is able to kill us before we can get out of danger. Okay, so the next example I want to show you is from a slightly more experienced player. In here, we're going to see a little bit more advanced movement and tactics that does work out, but I want to point out that this is kind of a reckless way to play. And I can tell you for the last part of this play, if they're playing a little bit more experienced players on the other team, this might not have worked out quite as well. Let's see what happens.
That's 2. 3 down. Like a reaper.
Okay, so let's go back through this frame by frame. So at this moment here, we do see we have red on our radar. However, we only see 1 dot. So you don't really know how many people are up here. We get a little bit lucky with the play that the Dune Marcher happens to chain multiple people and one of them slams into the wall to die. But this could have been an easy death right here. Let's see how it played out.
That's 2.
Okay, so that worked out. However, we see that there's more red on the radar in front of us. And our health's a little bit hurt, not too bad. Probably the smarter play here would be to switch to your primary because you're not sure if there maybe is also someone over in this platform or maybe someone out in the lower area over here. But instead we go charge in like an ape with our shotgun. And it happens to work out here, but I can tell you this kind of play against more experienced players would probably not work out quite so well.
3 down.
And we end up with 3 kills and an assist. Definitely not bad. This is an example of using really good movement tactics to overwhelm your opponent, and sometimes against less experienced players that might actually work out, so good job here. Okay, in this next clip, we're going to see my friend Subalicious, who's a very, very good player, close out a win with a clutch against a golden gun. Let's see how he plays it out.
Enemy remains. Don't let them...
Okay, so right here, we just heard that golden gun pop, and although you can't see him on screen, because we're using our audio cues, we know that that golden gun sound was from right over here. You're going to see him pop up on your screen, but we don't even need to know that because we just heard it with our ears. Excellent, excellent play.
Your team.
So let's watch that one more time and pay special attention to the radar. Sub does a really great job of baiting the golden gun around the yellow pillar, and he uses that radar to play Ring Around the Rosie and burn out the clock on the golden gun.
Don't let them catch their breath. Guardian down.
Okay, here we have another clip from my friend Subalicious. This time we're going to use the information that we hear again with our radar to take out an enemy super. Let's see how he does it. Really nice shot. Let's back this up a little bit. So once again, we just heard that Daybreak Warlock activation sound, and we know it's over on our left somewhere, and we also see in the kill feed that Daybreak was popped. Let's watch how he does it. Beautiful shot to take out the Dawnblade, and now we have a few more really nice snipes to finish out the clip.
Strength in numbers, Guardian. Excellent. A well-fought victory.
So if you like this kind of breakdown, I think you'd really enjoy this video I did recently where I gave 5 essential tips for PvP. It's the video up on the top right of your screen and also in the description.